On May 22nd, 2003, Anika Sorenstam becomes the first woman to face off against the men in 58 years on the golf course, leading the way for many others, showing that women can play with the men today on Daily Sports History. Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm Ethan Reese, your guide to a rapid deep dive into sports history. And for today's trivia question to listen out for is, who was the first woman to ever make the cut in a PGA event? Now, before we dive into this moment in history, let's dive into Anika's life. Anika Sorenstam was born in Sweden and born in the city of Bro, which is probably the coolest city name I've ever seen, which explains why she is so cool, because she came from Bro. Now, as a child, she was involved in multiple sports, not just golf. She was also nationally ranked in juniors tennis and played for her hometown soccer team, and she was such a good skier that the Swedish national coach suggested her family move to northern Sweden so she could ski year-round. But Anika chose golf as that was the sport she loved. She wasn't the only one. Her sister, Charlotta, also became a pro golfer, and they are the only sisters to ever both make $1 million on the LPGA Tour. Now, Anika was having a lot of success on the Swedish national team, and she had caught the eye of the University of Arizona, who offered her a scholarship to compete in America. She jumped at the chance, knowing the LPGA was based in America and was continuing to grow, and she could get a great education. In that first year, in 1991, she won 7 collegiate titles and became the first non-American and freshman to win the individual NCAA championship. And that same year, she actually qualified for the U.S. Women's Open and was able to make the cut and tied for 63rd. And a few weeks later, she would go on to be the runner-up in the U.S. Women's Amateurs. And by this point, she was ready to turn pro. And she did in 1992, but she missed getting her LPGA Tour card, which you need to qualify to be on the LPGA Tour, by just one shot. But she was going to continue her professional career with the Ladies European Tour overseas. But she also got invited to a few LPGA tournaments. And in 1993, she participated in 3 of these LPGA tournaments, finishing 38th, 4th, and 9th, collecting more than $47,000. This was enough for her to qualify in 1994 to get her LPGA Tour card. And she was the LPGA Rookie of the Year and had 3 top 10 finishes that year. And she continued to hone her game. And in 1996, she passed the 1 million mark for LPGA career earnings. She was having a lot of success, not only in LPGA, but she was also becoming a household name, as she had won multiple LPGA Players of the Year. And she had become so dominant that she was winning 50% of the tournaments she entered, which is a huge percentage. And in 2003, a woman named Susie Whaley won her local PGA America Section Championship and got a lot of attention for this. Now, she won while playing on the women's tee, which is something that people often ding her for about. And she had 10% less yardage as the men played from. But this garnered a lot of attention, and then the PGA invited Anika to participate in a PGA event, as she was the number 1 golfer and had been dominating the LPGA, and wanted to offer her the chance to compete against the men. And she agreed, as she wanted to push herself to be the best she could be, and she wanted to see how she could compete against the men. Now, this wasn't met with just overall support. The majority of PGA golfers supported her, such as Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, but number 4 in the world that year, Vijay Singh, strongly opposed her, as she was taking spots away from men and couldn't handle if he actually had lost to a woman. But Anika didn't care. She soldiered on, and she was ready to compete in the Colonial National Invitational, getting a sponsorship exemption to allow her to compete on the PGA Tour, which is an exemption that sponsors are given to allow people that don't have the credentials to compete on the PGA. It's how most women or amateurs compete in a PGA event. And this was the first time in 58 years that a woman had competed, as Babe Zinhas, or better known as Babe Dickerson, who we covered in a previous episode, had done so multiple times, and was the first woman to make a PGA cut back in 1945. And on May 22nd, 2023, Anika had finally walked up to hit her first drive with almost 200 journalists all there just to watch this amazing moment. It may have been one of the most pressure-filled shots in golf history and was the most attention Anika has ever gotten. She took out her four-wood and crushed the ball, traveling 255 yards onto the fairway, getting her off to a great start. And she actually did start really well, getting 3 straight pars and even a birdie on the 13th hole, giving her a brief moment on the leaderboard. But sadly, she struggled a little bit throughout the tournament, but wasn't far off, and she ended her first round at 71, which was a very respectable score. And she had only missed 1 fairway and hit 14 of 18 greens. But the next day, she struggled a little bit more and hit a 74, and she missed the cut and finished in 96th place. But she finished better than 11 men. And this would be the last time Anika would play against the men. But that doesn't mean her career was over, because even after this, it took her game to a new level, and she actually won 6 more women's majors after her battle with the men, and drove her to be a better golfer as she won 6 majors and 36 LPGA titles in the next 5 years, dominating women's golf, the likes that had not been seen before, and only comparable to the time Tiger Woods was dominating the PGA. She would go on to retire from golf and step away to enjoy life with her family. And she ended her career with 72 wins and a total of 10 majors. She's been inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame, as well as earning over $22 million over her career in just LPGA events. But she led the way for other women to have the chance to play with men. Most famously was Michelle Wie, who played multiple times versus the men. Susie Whaley also played with the men in 2003, same year as Anika, but she went on to become the president of the PGA, being the first woman to ever do that. There have been others more recently, as Brittany Lincecum played in 2018. Lexi Thompson made her appearance just last year in 2023. And though none of these women have made the cut or won any of these events, as long as the opportunity is there, I think one day we will have that option. And I think that's what we can take away from Anika's story, is she opened the doors for others to have options. She was so good at what she did on the women's game that she broke down the barriers to play with the men, because golf is something that women and men play together all the time, recreationally. Why can't it be professionally as well? And maybe one day we'll actually see a woman on the PGA Tour full time, which would be a great step in gender equality. And maybe it all happens because someone stepped up and opened the door for someone else. So despite what you might think, that you can't do something, or that you can't do it, or that doesn't even matter. You could say Anika Sorenstam missing the cut doesn't matter. But I'm telling you, it mattered to those following women and many other women who have competed in the LPGA. Sometimes that's all we need. And what we need from you is to just come back tomorrow and subscribe and follow wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. Because guess what? The next one's coming out tomorrow. So don't miss any daily sports history. And did you catch today's trivia answer? Who's the only woman to ever make a PGA cut? And it is Babe Dickerson.